Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to Market Check. I was just hired by BB. My name is Max. I'm brand new here. That's probably why you haven't seen me if you're a new follower of the past 2 weeks. But guys, all joking aside, I am thrilled to be back. Turns out I'm a complete workaholic and it's a problem. And I can't turn my damn brain off. And of course, as soon as I leave and I go on a trip, the market decides that it's going to high time frame correct. Nothing too crazy, but definitely some emotions running wild. So I did a stream while I was gone. Hopefully, some of you guys caught that. I thought it went pretty well, but I'm thrilled to be back, guys. And here's the deal: I've seen quite a bit of bearishness. Okay, I've seen quite a bit of bearishness, and I'm not too happy about that. All right. I agree with what Will has said before on this show. Bears have no father figure. I would agree. I would confirm that to be the case. And we're going to talk about all that today. We're going to go over some high time frame levels. We're going to talk about stocks. We're going to talk about crypto. We're going to talk about positioning. We're going to talk about pair trading. We're going to talk about Bitcoin dominance, altcoin dominance, everything. I'm sure that today is going to be a great show. I got a lot of pent up charts and analysis that I want to go over with you guys. So I'm thrilled to be here. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. We are a little bit short staffed again today. We will be back with a full panel, I believe Tuesday. We got the team kind of traveling around. We had a team member, Louis, who just had a kid, which is unbelievable. Big congrats to Louis. So we're all kind of getting back into the swing of things, but I am just ecstatic. I'm so ready to be here. The only downside is that it's Friday. So it's like, then we take another 2 days off. We come back Monday. So it's all right. It's all right. Let's hang out. Let's have a good time. Let's talk about some charts. I'm excited. Here with Jackus, here with Will, who's now going by the name Nancy Pelosi Stock God. I mean, he's not wrong. Nancy Pelosi is probably the greatest investor of all time. I think it's actually confirmed. Like, she literally is. Like, I think she's outperformed Warren Buffett over like 3 decades. Maybe I'm embellishing. I don't know. But either way, like neck and neck, like she's up there, you know? If she ever retires from politics and becomes a professional money manager, she can have my money in the hands of Nancy. All right. Well, let's dive into it, guys. Thrilled to be here, guys. I'm just reading some comments. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah, thanks so much for being here, guys. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. All right, let me do this real quick. Let me get the stream. Just because we're a little short staffed, I got to do this here. Let me tweet this out real quick. Join us on YouTube. Let me tweet that out real quick. Let me do it from mine as well, and then we should be good to roll. We got a lot of charts to talk about today. Where is the stream? One moment. And also, guys, like, you guys got some chart requests or questions, like fire them away in the comments. Let's do this thing, you know? Join us on YouTube. All right.
I have some yapping to do, but I'll let you go first, Max.
You say you got some yapping to do, Will?
Oh, yeah, on some charts, man.
Yeah, Will, you're going to cook today. All right, guys, here's the deal. This was, as I talked about in the stream that I did when I was gone, this was not my original range right here. This is a range that some people that I respect on X who post analysis, they had this drawn. And I think it's worth considering, right? So just to be clear, my initial range was something like this, okay? And this works too, right? And I had this initially as a deviation. Something that I'm willing to consider, of course, as everybody should, is that, you know, maybe you didn't have it set up correctly initially, right? So it's a combination of like kind of slightly moving the goalpost and recognizing that, hey, maybe the goalpost was not correctly positioned to begin with, you know, maybe it was off center. So when I look at this, I have my previous range low marked here. I'll just mark it as like Max's original range low. So right here, this little dashed line was my original range low. If this is our range, right? And I think that there is some, I think there is a excuse me. I think there's a case to be made for it. Like there is some clean interaction with this mid range, like no question about it. So if it's possible, like this is your range high, this is your range low, and then this is your deviation, I think it's worth entertaining, right? It wasn't my original plan, but you know, worth entertaining. We're going to see how the levels play. I will say this. I think that if you can get back above the sell-off from yesterday, like this attempted swing fail, right? It was like 59K, 60K, something like this. You get back above this right here, and you get acceptance back into my original range low. I think you've got a pretty compelling case to make for sending higher, right? To me, at this point, I'm cautiously optimistic locally, right? Like I don't view this as anything we can't recover from, but this doesn't really matter, right? Like what matters is up here, 59 to 60K. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, you know what? It's holding for now. We'll talk about some other high time frame charts and things like that. I just posted something on Twitter about it too. But what chart I actually like more is the total chart, right? Because what's different about the total chart, guys, is that we didn't have that same like deviation. Like it's a much cleaner range low. So here, let me even just pull up Bitcoin. We'll look at them side by side here. Let's see, Bitcoin USDT. So what's better about total, right? And there is some signal in it for sure. So let's just say my original range was correct. Here, let me do this. So this is total on the left. This is Bitcoin on the right. You can see there's a little bit of like a divergence happening, right? So this is Bitcoin. This was originally my range, something like this. I don't need the 1.618. Let's take that off. We don't need all that. Let me make this a little bit bigger. So you can clearly see the difference where like Bitcoin, and here I don't want people to forget, you know, sometimes I feel like people will look at these and be like, wait, what are we looking at again? Is that ETH? Is that Bitcoin? Is that total? They all they look a little similar. So this is total, right? So all of crypto, and then here's just Bitcoin. Total actually has a much cleaner setup than Bitcoin, like no question about it. So if this was our original range right here, and then we had this as a deviation, Total didn't have that, right? Like it wicked down there, but this was a much cleaner range low. Like Total has a much cleaner range low. So that this is giving me some bit of confidence that maybe we should be putting more weight in Total than we should Bitcoin here. So I'm looking at this going like, all right, you know, maybe my range for Bitcoin wasn't correct. Like maybe this was my valid range for Bitcoin, and it's just a bigger, more expanded range. And it should be like this. But I don't really know, right? It's just that I recognize like the significance of Total, right, and how it's played time and time again. And there are some key inflection points in history that we could point to where either Bitcoin or ETH, or even like something like Sol, has kind of given you a fake out to the downside, where like you'll see one of the majors, one of the top 10 or top 20 by market caps, kind of fake you out to the downside. There's sort of an abundance of selling or unnatural sell pressure that will arise, something like the German government, you know, jeeting their bags, or token unlocks or FUD, you know, just something random, right? That will cause an extreme sell-off or a true manipulation phase, like in its truest sense, a manipulation phase to the downside. And Total paints a very kind of holistic and accurate picture of the state of the crypto markets. And it removes that sort of bias of, you know, just, or that horse blinder effect of just looking at one ticker. So even though Bitcoin is the king, right, it's certainly possible that, you know, this is still our range, like I had it correct, and this is a true manipulation phase caused by Mt. Gox, Mt. Gox FUD and German government selling and minor capitulation, when in reality, if you look at Total, this is our deviation, you know, and this is our range low. And if total happens to reclaim, this range low and break out of this diagonal trend line I have drawn, I think it can provide a lot of clarity and kind of sniff out the fact that Bitcoin is dramatically oversold and arguably manipulated to the downside here because of a perfect storm. So that's kind of how I'm viewing the state of the market, is like we're at an inflection point. Like I don't know which range is the correct one. I'm willing to entertain both for sure. But this is a big level, right? 2.13 trillion for total, which is our range low. And I mean, truthfully, for Bitcoin, it's like we need the original range low reclaimed right here. Like we need 57.8 to 60. And I mean, ideally we'd get above 63, 64, but I'm willing to accept right now that if we got like a daily close, back above 60, like that's pretty good, like that's pretty good. I'll take that for now. I think that if you get 60, there's a pretty strong chance you get 63, 64, 65. So I'm not like, guys, like I'm not bearish. I'm not expecting a whole lot lower. I really am not. I know these shakeouts can be rough and aggressive. We're going to talk about like what I expect next in terms of altcoins and like what really begins to shine. But like I'm not aligned with a lot of these opinions that we go to like 48, 44, stuff like that. I recognize probabilistically that these levels can play and it's not impossible, but I would say that I'm not leaning towards that happening. And if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. I have teammates that are telling me that that's most likely going to happen. It's just not an opinion that at this point I share. And I would say that arguably, like if we did do that, we would probably see something like this first. Like I would be in the camp that we would move up here, really fake everybody out. And then getting some noise from somebody. I don't know who that is.
My apologies.
You're good. I would be in the camp that, then if we were to go lower, we would do something like this first and like really fake people out, So like this would be my original range low. We would fake reclaim it, deviate back in 60, 61, 62. Everybody would get super bowled up, me included, because it would look really good at that point. But we would still fail to get back above this critical level of like 63 and a half, 64. This would kind of serve as like your ultimate bull trap right here. We'll just label this bull trap. And then you would go down, right? So even in my opinion, this would kind of be the perfect like short setup right here, like perfect distributive complacency shoulder after losing the range low. I feel like people shorting here aggressively are leaving themselves maybe a little bit vulnerable to getting squeezed, even if it's only for, a few thousand points. I still feel like it'd be a little risky to short with how oversold things are and how much fear there is. But I mean, again, I could be wrong, but anyways, I've been going for a while. Like I'll leave it at that. Let's just have a discussion. But I know you guys got some thoughts. I know we probably have some differing opinions up here on the panel. But what's going on, guys? What's up? How we doing?
I don't have any different opinions. I'm bullish, man. I already told you guys this morning. Like looking at the stock market, like I can't see a world where stocks and crypto don't correlate, or at least come back to correlation at some point. Assets are assets, right? And liquidity flows move in all directions. Sometimes they stop flowing in one and continue flowing in others, and then they eventually flow back into those. And I'm telling you, the stock market is so freaking risk on. It's not even funny. It's not even funny. Stock market's full risk on, and everybody's crying, talking about lower pricing. Like, and we discussed this like literally for like a week. I said, like, I think your best case scenario is 48K if you're going to dip back down at all. Ideally, you would like to see Bitcoin come back out of this range, because if it comes back out of this range, flip 60, then at that point, this could just simply be a deviation at the low and then a move back to the highs. And I think if you get back above 60, 65, you're probably looking at, more or less not coming back to those lows. Like the lows are set at that point. And I think not enough people are looking at this. It's a downtrending market, or a bull flag in a sense. If you were to look at Bitcoin from a higher time frame, I would say probably daily, you could see the bull flag starting to form on Bitcoin to the downside. And it looks like it wants to turn from a bull flag into a breakout. And as you can see there, from the lower lows, lower highs, structure, but very structured price action to the downside. You're always looking for structured price action to the downside, lower highs, lower lows, and then you can pretty much create a bull flag off of that and then run that up. And I think that's where we're at. I think we're at the lows of that bull flag if you were to run that.
So Will, you're looking at something kind of like this as, I'm just going to put it in like really thick just so you can see it over my range. Like you're kind of looking at something like this, and this is a deviation right here.
No. So bring that back up. You could actually do a channel.
Oh, so you're looking at like this right here,
yes.
Like a bullish, like giant bull flag channel kind of thing.
Exactly. Like controlled price action is always important to look out for, because when you're getting mechanical controlled price action between two ranges and you're moving to the downside, it's looking for a breakout. If it's moving to the upside, it's looking for a breakdown. I think not enough people are looking at this as an overall time frame. They're looking at it as these levels to the downside versus like the overall time frame and what pattern that's being created. And to me, with this lower low structure and bouncing out of that lower low structure, it's showing strength. And if you look at RSI and stochastic on a daily are literally ready to push above the 50. Like they're there, right? Like look at the RSI. It was so undersold. It's not even funny. Like, what is your anticipation? You think they're just going to keep selling the RSI down?
Do you see the daily bull div as well, Will?
Yep.
Like this right here is kind of nice. Like it needs to obviously follow through. But I mean, I don't think, if this is our range low and this also diagonal support, right? It's kind of nice in confluence with that, right? It's nice to see that it's just another piece of the puzzle if it ends up following through, right? Which it needs to do.
And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for confluence. And I talk about this a lot. I feel like not enough people get it, but you need more than one signal to get ideally, your thought process of direction. You can't sit there and be like, oh, well, the RSI says this, so that is what it is. You need multiple signals. You got a bull flag forming. You got a bullish reversal, look like it's getting ready to play out, and then you've got structured price action, right? And you got oversold RSI. You got stochastic that is not topped. Like you have a lot of signals that are in favor of potential bounce here. Bounce at minimum, right? Bounce at minimum. And then we'll see where it goes from there. But typically these bull flags end up playing a lot bigger than what people anticipate.
I mean, I agree with that. There's definitely still a lot of work to be done, but I don't know. I mean, that's the thing is like, I feel like it's getting a little bit crowded to the bear side now. And I could be, to be fair, like I've been gone. I haven't been as dialed into the markets as I normally am. But from what I have seen from a sentiment perspective, like just kind of anecdotally trying to kind of gauge, in a subjective fashion, like, hey, how are most people feeling about the market? I know there's a lot of people still hanging on to like a bullish belief, but it seems like, 48K, that's where our support is. Like I'll happily bid 48K, but I could be wrong on that. Like that's just what I've seen out there, right? And there's not, I wouldn't say there's anything concrete about that, but I think there's something to be said about trying to appropriately gauge sentiment and how most investors are feeling. And by the way, you have reason to feel bearish here. Like I can see the bearish case. Like if this is the range, like this is not good, right? Like if this was our range, this is ugly, right? Until you get back up here, that's really, really bad. So like if there was ever a place too short, like it is right here. Like if there was ever a place too short, like I'm not blind to these levels, you know what I mean? Like I do TA for a living, like I can see it. If there was ever a place to short or get bearish, it's here, because if this rejects here, then it's like, then you do come down into this region, right? And you probably fill this inefficiency right here, but I don't know if I'm ready to say that happens yet. Like I kind of just, what's really throwing me off the most, right, is where is total? Is this total chart, right? Like this this is telling me that Bitcoin is bluffing, and this is just a solid deviation. So it's like Bitcoin needs to, I mean, ideally get back above like 60 to probably more like 62, 63, 64. Or total just looks like it needs to get back above like 2.12, 2.13 trillion, which is like one decent push away. And then Will, you mentioned stocks earlier. Like, look at IWM. This is small caps. Like, look at small caps. You know what I mean? It's like, let's talk about this for a second. So it's like, someone asked me this morning in our Discord call, and I gave them this answer. They're like, what's the significance of small caps or stocks, mainly small caps, bidding the way that they are? How does that even matter for crypto? And I said, well, not directly, right? But it's the implication of what small caps bidding implies for global markets, right? Typically, you see small caps start to catch a bid when global liquidity conditions improve, things start to heat up, markets are getting frothy, there's excess, and people want to take on more risk. There's inherently more risk in buying Russell 2000 companies versus buying mega cap, blue chip tech companies that make up 20% of the US economy, right? So when people really want to put their foot down and speculate on growth, and look for crazy returns, they start buying shitcos, right? So think of IWM, which is the Russell 2000 ETF. I know most of you guys are crypto guys, right? And some of you probably don't even watch US equities. So that's why I'm just going to explain this in a little bit more detail. Think of IWM as the equivalent of Total 3. This is your shitcoin index, okay? That's what IWM is. So when TradFi, when Legacy, when they get hungry to take on risk, they start bidding IWM, right? Or at least a basket of smaller cap companies, okay? So what does that imply? Well, when the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 start to heat up, then if liquidity conditions provide for it and people are looking to take on more risk at the right time, they start buying shitcos, or they just buy the basket, IWM. But what that also implies is that, hey, there's a whole other market and there's a whole other asset class called crypto, which allows them to turbocharge their beta exposure and take on even more risk than buying shitcos. They can buy crypto because whether you agree with it or not, crypto is still viewed as sort of the ugly redheaded stepchild of the legacy financial system, right? It's still kind of obscure. It's ultra high risk. People are confused by it. But historically, when stocks heat up and they reach that real inflection point of NASDAQ's ripping, S&P 500 is ripping, now small caps are starting to rip. The implications of small caps doing tremendously well is that some of that will flow through to crypto historically. So that's the significance of it. So when I look at this chart right here, I go, oh, okay, well, it looks to me as of this point that the Russell, which is your shitco index, has broken out of a 750-day accumulation, or at least it's trying to. We'll see if it ends up having the follow through. That might be a really good sign for crypto, right? Like, this is a big range break. So we'll see what happens. I mean, there's certainly some supply above head. Like, you want to be a little careful because like this is a big level right here. You know what I mean? Like, this is your all-time high supply region.
We're already above it though. We're already above it. Like, if we can close up here, like the be careful scenario is not even a thing. But I do think you'll fill those gaps. If you look at the left there though, look Max, look how much higher. Like let's zoom out a little bit. Look to the left. Look how much higher they went on IWM once they broke that range that they created there. Like over to the right where they just went parabolic to all-time highs.
You talking like here?
Yes, when they broke that range. So we're probably in that chop zone right down there just before breaking the range.
So are you saying we're like right in here?
Right in there. And as soon as this thing, like they're blind, bro. They are absolutely blind because this thing gets back up there to those highs, it's going to melt faces on high risk. High risk is going to melt faces. And look how parabolic that went. It just went up and up and up and up and up and up on high risk. That's massive on stocks. I mean, and you're seeing it across the board. This is why I gave to the group, because we have to make sure our BB chads are making money. I was like, Lucid, Rivian, super high risk, play these things, run calls. And I even came to our audience here and said Lucid, right? And all these things are absolutely killing it right now. Like on the call side, like you are printing right now on the call side, like 5x right now on Lucid. I think Rivian's up like 7 to 8x right now from low positioning. Like people are just sleeping. They're so hyper focused on crypto. You could be making money if you're playing both sides of the coin here, and that's stocks and crypto.
So when I look at this, Will, let's get a little abstract with this. Like, let's do this. So this is we're gonna have some fun here because I'm seeing a lot of similarities, like from a market structure standpoint, between the Russell and then here's total down below. So let's look at it like this, right? So here is our like crypto bottom, right? Like our global bear market bottom. And then, here is, I mean, if you want to count FTX, we probably should, right? Let's just put it as this region, right? Like here's your crypto bottom, right? And here I'll label these real quick just so people don't forget. Total is right here. And then IWM, which is your small caps, are up top. And then what both of them seem to do, and Total did this as well. It wasn't as pronounced as like, COVID, because COVID was obviously a black swan and they shut down the world economy. But it put in, a pretty definitive like high time frame, higher low, right? So let's take a look at this here. Up, high time frame, higher low, right? You can see pretty clearly right there. And then what's interesting about that is the Russell actually put in kind of the opposite, right? Like this is more dramatic for sure. But like it actually did put in a lower low. Like it did put in a lower low. It wasn't as pronounced as COVID, right? Because again, COVID was a black swan. But if we are right here where you said, Will, which is like right kind of like in this region, you know what I mean? Like right in this region where I'm drawing this vertical line, then that would imply that, crypto is just kind of, it's kind of like right in here, roughly. Russell is like right in here.
It is. Yes, it is.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
You see this?
100%. We talked about this a few days ago. That's exactly where I said price was sitting. We're at the mid market, and people think we're at the highs. We're at the freaking mid market. And when I say mid, I mean like where the market actually started its breakout, where it started. So if you were to take that entire range, that entire breakout max, copy that, put it on top of where we are, and look at your number.
I mean, the structure even looks similar. I'm gonna do it, but I want to just highlight this first. Like, look at the like 3 stabs, like 1, 2, 3. See what I mean? Like it even looks similar, right? Like how it's kind of grinding up. So let's do this. To fit it a little bit. I mean, that's interesting.
It is. And look how much higher you're going.
Here, let me ignore the COVID recovery. I mean, this drop, very interesting, actually. It's extremely interesting.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, that's fractals never play out one for one. Like I wouldn't expect it to play out exactly the same, but I mean, it looks like really damn close so far. You know what I mean? And it's happening contextually, like at a very similar place for crypto as well. It's like it looks really similar.
Copy the Bitcoin one, overlay it. It's the same shit. It's literally the same shit.
Yeah, it's so similar. Wow. If this happens, dude, I mean it's
we're going a lot higher than what people think we are. If that happens. If it happens for Bitcoin, you're gonna hit your 200Ks, your quarter mils.
You will, man. I mean, I posted some analysis this morning about how I believe that the broader context and positioning of where the market is at is, I think it's at such a unique spot that you kind of just have to turn your brain off and bid a little bit. Like I'm really not overly concerned with like little corrections. And I know the correction we had, a lot of people are probably like, Max, you're downplaying it. That wasn't little. But when I say little, I just mean like it's perfectly in line with like a normal, healthy, high time frame bull market correction. It's not like Bitcoin nuked 65% and we had a COVID type situation. Like high time frame market structure is perfectly intact, right? And I think what we're seeing right now is just like a really high time frame shakeout. And I think, Will, something that you said during the first 6 months of this bull market, from like when all of us really got bullish, you kept saying like your obvious support, your high time frame levels are not going to get hit. Like you draw out your support, your obvious high time frame level, like you're not getting it, right? And I think this might just be another instance of exactly that happening, where everybody wants 44 to 50 roughly because it's obvious, and I just don't know if you're going to get it, honestly. Like I feel like Bitcoin might just do come back from the dead, which it's done. How many times have you seen Bitcoin come back from the dead, right? And that's being dramatic. I don't think that Bitcoin's dead, right? But some people out there would probably tell you that it's cooked. I don't know. I just think that the broader backdrop of where the market is at supersedes a bull market correction and break of structure, because we have seen high time frame market structure breaks to the downside in bull markets, and Bitcoin comes back from the dead, to say. So you're on mute, Will. I can't hear you.
Oh, my bad. The thing that people aren't getting is that, 15K to 10K. Think of how close you were. Why were you not bidding? 25K to 21K. Think of how close you were. Why were you not bidding? 52K to 48K. Think about how close you were. Why were you not bidding? I can point this out time and time and time and time again. Was I wrong on my top levels? 100% I was. Look, the top end range, I was wrong on them. But I can tell you almost every single range, and Max, you've been here to witness it. I was pretty damn on point on almost every range except for this top range. I thought 60K would hold. I 100% thought 60K would hold. Was wrong on that, obviously. But every other range, I have nailed those ranges, man. Like on point, high time frame ranges, I've nailed them. And I'm telling you, like, we are so close to a bottom, it's not even funny. Like people just the fearfulness is just like it doesn't make any sense. Like it's like you dip your toes in, oh, it's cold. Pull your toes out. Dip your toes in, oh, it's cold. You're never gonna get in the pool. That's all people keep doing with their positioning. They keep dipping it in, pulling it out, dipping it in, pulling out. They're not realizing any gains because they're like, oh, we can bid lower. This guy on Twitter told us we can bid lower. And ideally, you want to put your money where the better risk to reward is. In stocks, it's already moving. It's already moving. You missed your opportunity because you did not position ahead of time. Now in crypto, you're getting the opportunity to position ahead of time, and you're interested in my stock plays, right? Now, it's like, why were you not interested in them when I was talking about them and nobody was interested in them? Because it's that continuous thought process of chasing the green candle versus trying to get in and front run this market every time.
And Will, what do you think about the election coming up too, right? Because we know that historically in pre-election years, things can be pretty solid, right? There's usually a little bit of turbulence, but after the US election, which is in November, things usually heat up pretty good. Like let me But
here's the thing. Before you get into the election thing, I want to highlight AP's comment. And this is not picking on AP, right? I don't know. I think you're new. I haven't seen you before, but you said Andrew Kang is bearish, guys. I believe we will reach 46K sooner than later. Do you hear the confidence in that statement? Why does anybody have confidence in any statement that they've stated? And it's always the confident bearish statements that make me more confident that the bearishness is uncalled for. That's the thing. The bearish confidence statements, as if people actually know the directionality of the market, that solidifies my thought process in the current market. And again, that's not a poke at you, Andrew. It's just me pointing out the obvious. And you're not the only person to do that. There's a lot of people that say those type of statements. Nobody knows. Nobody should be thinking we will reach it sooner than we think. How do you know time frames? Nobody knows time frames. Nobody. Like you could say call options require time frames, That's just a thought process of looking at level to level pricing and be like, all right, I think that by the directionality of this price, we can reach that level by this date, right? That can give you a time frame. But looking at crypto and just being like, I think we're going to reach there sooner than later. What is sooner? A month, a week, an hour? Like, again, these are statements that you need more context in.
I'm trying to find this here. Hang on. No, I guess not.
I do have some equity plays, though. I still have one that looks really ripe, and I think it's going to play out. So I'll give that to the audience. But what are our likes looking at right now, Max? Because I'm not going to give that away for free. I gave you guys Lucid basically for free by the like buttons. So
let's see, guys. Let's see. Oh my gosh, not so good. Not so good. Guys, if you are enjoying the content, do us a solid. Hit that thumbs up button. It just takes one moment and it really helps the channel, guys. I promise we wouldn't ask if it didn't make a big difference. Should I just fall silent until we get the likes up? Or I could pull up the soybean chart.
Well, I mean,
no,
the fact that you came on and started cooking and the likes looked like the way they are, I don't even know what to say, man. Like, yeah. I'm literally going to give you guys a good call position live again, and you guys can't even hit the like button.
It just takes a second, guys. It really it helps support us, helps support the channel. All you got to do costs $0 to just hit the like button. Additionally, if you're on Twitter, guys, you can hit the heart button. You can even hit the retweet button. Help spread the good word, guys. I think it's on my Twitter. It's on Will's. It's on Jackus's. It's on the BB one. Retweet the stream from one of ours, guys. It really helps us out. And again, guys, thanks so much for being here. I'm so excited to be back. Like I'm so hyped to be back. Oh, Will, one more thing I want to add to this chart while they're liking it. Let's take a look at what DXY did during these times. So here's DXY down below.
DXY is cooked.
I mean, DXY looks heavy here, man. It looks really heavy.
It's a rising wedge, Max. It's a rising wedge that's going to fall over.
I mean, it looks so heavy, bro. Like it just, I mean, look at this chart, guys. Like this looks absolutely cooked. Look at this thing.
You just got to break that low. That's all you got to do. You break one of those lows, is it's going to start cascading to the downside.
I mean, it's this right here, man. It might already be lost. I mean, it's this low right here. Like we'll give it. It's this.
Get it close. Yeah.
You do this.
Retest and roll.
God, goodbye. I mean, what? Goodbye. You know, like just genuinely goodbye. Sayonara. See you later.
Yeah, and that very well could happen.
Yeah. I mean, that is just something else, man.
I am at Will's Outlook Har. Just so you know, on Twitter. At Will's Outlook.
No, bro, Andy's a great place still, man. And so here's the thing. If you've tuned into any of the Andy spaces that I run, I run them once a week. I haven't in a couple weeks because I was just gone traveling out of the country. I've explained to everybody how Andy is Ethereum beta. Tried and true, right? Like it's basically a 10 times levered ETH play. So back in May, Ethereum pumped 800 points. Pumped from like 2,900 to 36, 37, something like that. Like they're upper 3Ks, right? It was like 800 points. Andy went up 700% in 2 weeks, right? Off of the back of Ethereum showing strength. The unfortunate part that I feel like a lot of people have missed is that Ethereum beta works both ways, right? Everybody loves it when ETH is going up, but when ETH goes down like it just has, back from 3,800 down to, went to 2,900 recently, actually made a new low. Then ETH beta like Andy and Pepe and all these other, ETH betas that we love, they get wrecked, right? So, I've been trying to explain to people, and I've even said this on the Andy space. I'm like, I couldn't be, much more bullish Andy. The thing is, without saying it directly, like if ETH corrects, actually I did say it directly on one of the spaces. I was like, if ETH drops, Andy's going to get wrecked. just like all ETH beta is. So it's like you just have to, if you're going to hold it, you just have to have a stomach for it because you have to recognize what you're trading. You're holding levered Ethereum is what you're doing. So I'm super bullish ETH here, but this was a nasty correction. And yeah, a lot of ETH beta just got smacked. It's that simple. So, I haven't sold any Andy. I'm still just sitting on it, and I've held through drawdown because I recognize what I'm trading. And I think that ETH's probably going to go over 8,000 in the next year. So the idea of selling because I can't take the pressure of a drawdown in the short term. I recognize thoroughly, wholeheartedly what I'm trading and why it's moving the way that it is. So no, I haven't sold any Pepe to answer that question, and I haven't sold any Andy. And yeah, I mean, it's not fun holding through drawdown, but I have a very realistic and data-driven approach to what I'm holding, and I thoroughly understand why it's moving the way that it is. And it doesn't make it easier to stomach drawdown, but it makes the decision-making process easier. Like if ETH was going up and Andy started moving down, I'd be like, we got a problem here. We got a hole in the ship. We're taking on water. That's not the case at all. Like holder count is remaining strong. Chart looks good, relatively speaking. Like it's just ETH beta. So people are learning the hard way. Those that didn't catch the Andy spaces, those people are learning the hard way. Hey, yeah, it works both ways. I want to turbocharge my ETH returns, but also I get destroyed when ETH pulls back. So I'm still hanging on and I'm not going anywhere. What about Bobo? Yeah, Bobo is like literally the exact same thing. It is the exact, like, replace what I just said, but with Bobo. Like, it is just ETH beta. And if ETH drops, Bobo's going to get wrecked. Same thing as Andy. Same thing as Pepe. Like, it's the exact same thing, And then what little things that their community does can make, the world of a difference, But in its truest sense, that's what's going on with all these ETH plays. So. But yeah, anyway, sorry, Will, were you going to say something? I just wanted to get to some of these questions real quick. I've been gone for so long, I gotta.
You gotta cook. I get it.
I gotta cook a little bit. I'm built up, man. It's like it's been like brewing,
He's like, I just got home from war. I'm here to see my wife. But yeah, I think with pricing and stuff like that, we can kind of look at. I have a couple charts I wanted to kind of talk about, but if you wanted to cook on what you have there, we can get into that.
Let's do it. I might Tommy it and steal it back from you at some point. But fine. Let's go. Let's cook,
bro. I look. I haven't talked about Pepe hardly at all, but I just took a little fractal, overlaid it against a little bit of price action, and I'm telling you, like Pepe to me, like again another reason why I don't think Bitcoin's going to really go down. I literally took this fractal this, overlaid on current price action, and like this is what it looks like to me, man. I think it's bottomed. I think this big wick here was like your low, and I think it's slowly building back up. And I think when it actually takes off, nobody will see it coming. They'll come back down. They're like, oh, it's going to roll, failed shoulder, and then it just keeps going.
Do you think this? Do you think this is a really similar pullback to the one that we had in what was that, April-ish?
Right here,
that right there. Yeah, you like that as a comparison?
I like that as a comparison. That's what this is right here. It's the same as that pullback, same amount of percentage too. That's the crazy part. It's almost the same percent pullback. So it's run, rinse the market, run, rinse the market, run, rinse the market. It's a really similar type of play here, higher time frame. Mm-hmm. And you know me, I'm all about the high time frames. I'm not about the bullshit on the low time frames. And so for me, Pepe looks really prime, really, really prime. So just wanted to bring that up for one. We talked about this. I told people about this. We added this in the Discord, and look at this fucking thing, bro. Like, jeez. Look, I had $15 calls. Look at where we're at right now.
You're deep in the money.
Deep in the money on this one. And like, I'm thinking like, look, there's really, I mean, we might get caught up here a little bit, but like, I'm thinking like we're going to hit here before my calls get called.
What's your expiration date on those, Will?
I think it's like 8/17 or something like that, just before September or going into September. So, but I'm going to cut them before September.
And guys, this is what we were talking about with like some of these smaller cap companies, you know, like a Rivian, starting to catch a little bit of attention, right? And we'll see if they end up having some follow through. But I mean, it's a precursor historically, like it's a precursor for, you know, a lot of things to really just start to heat up, you know, like you can feel the energy shift where, yeah, it was Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, you know, they had all the attention, all the liquidity, and now suddenly shitcos are starting to
Max,
rip.
You know the funny part? Remember us playing this right here?
Yeah.
In 2023? Same time.
I do, yeah.
Look at the time frame. What time frame did this thing break out? Look at the month.
Is that January? No, June. Sorry, it's really small on the bottom. Yeah.
Into what? Into July. Where are we at right now?
Interesting.
Where are we at right now?
Interesting.
Bro, tell me about a run it back play.
Mm.
They're literally just parabolic, right? Now, here's the question. Can it sustain, right? Can it sustain? And if you get above here, my God, good luck coming back. This would be the high time frame rejection, though. If you're going to reject, it's going to be here. This would be the highest point because beyond that, if you go beyond that, you're up. The stock's broken out. It's starting its meta phase. And that's something to not fade. So I'm kind of watching this. This could ultimately just be a round bottom like what I've shown here. And we come up to like right here, reject, you know, and do one of these, which would suck. That's a potential tier 2. That means you're going to sit here for a long time. But this call is so far in the money, I'm not even sweating it. And then I talked about Lucid right in here, and I was like, the minute you break, and I told people live here, right? I said, the minute you break that neck, Lucid's going parabolic. What'd it do?
Mm-hmm.
Literally just went straight north as soon as it broke the neck. And I had this drawn out. You can go back through our previous shows since you weren't here. Look at this. Like, I literally had this drawn to tag this position. And I think they're still going to tag it. And I put these out with safety plays, Max. I had January calls on these. January calls.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's beautiful.
Multiple X's. That's all I'm saying. Like, people are sitting over here coping on crypto right now. We're printing.
But here's the thing is I don't even see there's not even a reason to cope on crypto right now. Like we just talked about like we just talked about why there's no good reason to cope on crypto. Like it's just kind of doing what it's always done. Like this is just a really like aggressive, in my opinion, high time frame correction in a bull market that's about to start heating up.
I mean, if you look at Tesla here, we talked about Tesla calls a long while ago, me and Tommy, but we didn't get on these. We missed them. So I'm not going to sit up here and cap and say, oh, yeah, we got this one too, guys, because that never happened. But would I have liked to have? Yes, I would have liked to have. But the RR on the ones I picked were much better anyway, so I just went with those. I mean, the Rivian calls, I think, were 62 cents when I bought them. They're currently at almost $3-something, like $3.50, $4 almost, I think. Mm-hmm. And Lucid calls are up, I think, at least 2-3x from the positioning that we bought. Now, if you look at something like Nvidia, everybody keeps trying to call a high time frame top. Again, still pushing for higher highs. I think that this fractal plays out. This is something I believe Jackus brought up. It was this area right here, and we just overlaid it right here. And it's kind of like flipping the range, right? So you're flipping the range on its head. Now you're in a new range. You're going parabolic, but you're just kind of playing the higher range. And a lot of people think that, oh, this is a rising pattern. It's going to fall over. No, this is a stop, guys. Like there's no possibility that this is just going to keep going parabolic. That's it. Unless Nvidia like implodes, which there's no possibility of happening. They're pretty much the leading GPU manufacturer, I would arguably say, in the world. It's just going to keep going north, just like Apple, right? We discussed Apple. Look, 231. I think, at this point, good positioning for there. What does our likes look like? Because I do want to cook that good play, but I don't want to give it away for free.
We got 200 likes. That's pretty good. It's a Friday stream. Fridays are usually a little bit slower, so I'll accept 200. That's pretty good. Thanks for the likes, guys. Appreciate it.
So Here's my thoughts on GME. Flagpole, pennant, veering out round bottom. I think you're going to go parabolic. And I know that's questionable, right? Because we've talked about things like Carvana and other things that are just something that probably should have just went to zero, but never did. And I think that looking at this, the way it looks, I'd say you're a month or two out. And that's what I have my call set for. I got them set for September on this one. So this looks like a really good setup. Really, really good setup. I took some positioning on this. A little bit underwater at the moment. But obviously the Chads know the positioning. But I did take call positions on this. And currently I'm looking for something like a really big move, right? A really, really big move. Now, if we were to like fib this high to low, and obviously I didn't catch the full high, and we're to 1618. I mean, this thing could really do some numbers. But I took 55s on this. So if I hit, great. I'll cut those positions, especially if it gets up in the $100 range. But I think this one looks like a really good setup. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I like it. I typically stay away from GME. Okay. I don't think that I'm the best person to ask about it. Like, I don't follow it as closely as somebody who's going to really navigate this. I mean, it's probably one of the more difficult tickers to navigate just because there's so much going on around it, right? You have you are flooded with retail, a mix of experienced and very inexperienced. It's so highlighted that it's on everybody's watch list. You've got funds trying to take money from retail, but I almost give it the analogy of imagine. So my sister's really good at pickleball, and I'm not. I'm a good athlete, but I don't play. She's borderline professional. She's insane. But when I play against her, I can kind of hang in there with her because I'm so bad. She doesn't know how to play against me. I hit these junky ping pong style shots. It's she doesn't even know how to defend against me. I'm talking shit. I'm stomping my feet. I'm trying to spin every shot like crazy. And she's proficient and has this good technique. And she doesn't know how to play against me because I'm so fucking bad at pickleball. So that's kind of how I view GME is you have guys that are literally you have fund managers and quants and algos that are programmed to trade one way, trading against people that literally have no fucking clue what they're doing. That you just kind of get a mess, right? You just have an absolute mess. And, it's hard to defend against. It's hard to play against. So that's kind of how I view GME is you just have this weird mix of retail. Some of them have money. Some of them can influence the market, trading against the biggest players in the space. And it just kind of seems like a clusterfuck to me. I don't know how else to put it. It scares me a little bit. I don't feel like I have an edge trading GMEs, but I do like that pattern. Okay.
I guess the point that I was going to get to is yes, exactly what you're describing though, at least from my experience, creates these type of moves, right? A 300% move in a matter of 3 days, so on and so forth. And so when you get retail who has no clue, you get a bunch of people that have no real experience, they all just start dogpiling. And then they give you these massive expansion moves that will basically give you a nice exit position every single time.
Yeah.
And that's more or less what I'm reading into. And I think you're getting ready to get into that expansion move here for GME. I think it's going to expand from here. And so if you look at this move, and I didn't even calculate from the bottom, by the way, I calculated from where the expansion began to where it ended, and that was a 350% move. And they could do that very well again here and push this thing up into the $100 range. My calls would be so far in the money, it wouldn't even be funny. Right. And I could cut those positions and get out and move on to something else. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking at this as an opportunistic play or trade, not a hold. Right. It's just a trade for me. And so when I get into my calls and get far into the money, then I'm just going to cut those positions and move forward. I'm not going to be looking to hold spot GME, if that makes sense.
But see, I would almost rather hold spot GME just because then I don't have to worry about theta decay on, you know, my
It's almost
options.
nothing, man.
Because I feel like that's probably where they destroy people, is just burning them out of their calls, right?
But yeah, that's what they did here. Look, they literally theta decayed people to death right here.
They just destroyed any like all your money's gone if you've been holding any calls there. Like they just burned you out, you know. And that's where I feel like I would want to play calls on it, right? Because of what it can do when it squeezes. But I mean, I feel like it's almost like it's impossible to play Tesla calls as well. Like they're just so crowded and expensive.
I feel like we were so good on these though. Like down here at the lows.
Yeah.
I feel like we had this position and we just fumbled it as BB. Like we were talking about it, we were discussing it. The call positions were not bad here. Yeah. And if we would have taken them, we would have made a nice little bag here.
Yeah.
But with that being said, like I just think there's so much opportunity. One other thing I want to bring up too, and I've been cooking on this now for like probably a week. I think that's a W formation on Solana, man. I really think that's a W formation on Solana.
I agree with that. I totally agree. Like, okay, and that move to the left there, we'll see where your red line originates from, like that little cluster. That is mega demand, bro. That is high time frame mega demand. So it looks like a giant bull flag to me.
Yeah, to me, it's a W getting ready to break. And once you break the neck, man, once you break the neck right here, like it just parabolic from there. That's all you got to do. You just got to break that neck, and this thing goes. So, this is why, like, I look at things like this, and I'm like, how can you be bearish on Bitcoin? Here, let's look at Ethereum, another one of those too. I look at things like this, and I know there's that scenario where people are thinking you're going to get this, right? But again, this is another one of those that can simply be Chop City and then take off. It's not a W. It's not a W because you don't have a mid range, but it could just be consolidation breakout.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I'm looking at it. High time frame. I don't think you have to deviate. Although a lot of people are in that camp. A lot of people are in the camp of deviation.
So yeah, I mean, I'm viewing ETH as bullish here, bro. Like let me just pull a Tommy here, take it back from you. Like I look at this right here as more or less, Will, and I feel like you'll agree with me, something around here. Okay. It's been long, it's been drawn out. I understand. It's annoying, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like this is where we're at, right? Like I genuinely, I think that this is where we're at. You could view this as like, you know, this was your bear market accumulation. This was your bear market accumulation. And yes, we've been here for a long time. I think this is where we're at. I do. And by the way, this is in log mode. Let me take it off log mode for you guys. What are we talking about?
I don't know, but I was looking at Kakar Gaming's comment, and I was sitting there thinking, I was like, man, if you just go drink a glass of milk, get a little protein in your body, you might come back with a different, a different thought process.
That's crazy, man. That's a great comment, man. You know what I think I'm gonna do? You know what I think I'm gonna do, guys? Let's do this. Right now we have 226 likes. If we get 227 likes, I'll ban him from the show. Just one more like. So it's up to you guys. If you want him banned from the show, you could like it one more time. Oh, would you look at that? 227. Well, I mean, I gotta respect what the audience says, you know. I mean, it's not my decision, right? I gave the audience an ultimatum. I gave them a decision. But yeah, I mean, I guess the audience voted, right? It was not easy to add one more like on, but they did it. So clearly the audience has spoken. But I mean, I view this as, right, like let's look at this. Let me just zoom in a little bit here. Okay. Okay, hang on. Let's do this first. Let's do this first. Bitcoin USD. Okay. First and foremost, everybody. First and foremost.
You might say Maxi got mogged.
You could say that. Can you define mog for me? I feel like I haven't always used it correctly.
So think of it like getting played, or getting
like
somebody
you
getting
got
a one up on you.
Is it like a diss? Like, oh, like I just mogged you, like I just destroyed you? Like that kind of thing? Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
I feel like I'm an old man asking, can you explain mogging to me?
Which, by the way, Mog has been killing it, bro. Has been killing it.
Yeah, Mog's a good one, man. It's just another really solid ETH beta play. It looks pretty good. I mean, Will, this is like, bro, look at like this is fucking wild, man. How similar these look right here. This is wild. Wild, wild, wild. No, border, come on. This is crazy to me, how similar this looks.
Yeah, that structure looks really good. That's actually, yeah, that is kind of crazy. That's very much like the 25 to 30K range for Bitcoin. That means you got a lot of expansion coming. A lot of expansion if that ends up playing out.
And I think, yeah, I mean, it looks so similar too, man. Like even, like this part is the crazy part to me. Like this is just so, like this slow bleed distribution. And then you have this final, this is Bitcoin on the left, by the way. That's why it's orange. And then I put ETH on the right. But yeah, here. And then you have like the final, just like the nuke candle. Like this thing. That's so similar. And I don't know, maybe it keeps playing, right? Maybe it doesn't. But I mean, I see the similarities, right? It's hard to refute that. Like it looks similar.
No, 100% it does. I like this chart. I don't know. We haven't heard much from Jackus, though. What are your thoughts, Jackus, on this?
On what exactly? Well, you mean this
Ethereum
fractal?
Bitcoin range? Yeah.
I mean, we kind of discussed that this week already, didn't we?
This fractal right here specifically, I must have missed that.
I mean, listen, my takes remain the same, right? I'll start with from BTC. So it's just undeniable that we lost the range there. That's just a fact. And I see lots of people redrawing the range now to fit the bias. I do not think that's the right take. And that's just undeniable fact that the range got lost, right? I always say that it's always possible that like we are going to get like a completely random pump, right? That can always happen. I always give it like 10% probability that something can happen anytime. The thing is, though, that it made sense to be bearish at the range highs, which I was furiously saying. We went lower. It made sense to be bullish. And when I say range highs, I mean 72K. It made sense to be bullish at the support within a range. We lost it. We held the range lows, but then lost it. Right? At that point, the local trend, and I will keep on reminding this, changed to being bearish. And we have not hit any higher time frame support here. That's simply a fact. And the problem is that we still have a very hard time even breaking above these local bodies on BTC, right? Look at the daily candle we had yesterday, right? That's quite a rejection, 2 days in a row. There is a possibility that we may even flip the local range highs, local high from yesterday. Even at that point, it doesn't mean anything. Like that's just, we are still trading within an impulsive leg lower right now on the daily. So I do remain to be macro bullish, but locally the structure isn't there. And it doesn't make sense much to me to like look at the sentiment, because it will be really like a lot depending on your eco bubble that you have out there. But from my like observation, it seems that it's kind of like 50-50. You have people that are, and again, it will always depend on the time frame we are talking about, right? But it seems right now that there's like people that say, hey, can I, like me, like, hey, we lost the range lows, right? That's undeniable that it was at 60K, not down here. You have people that say like, yeah, we kind of did, but we can still kind of come back. And that's kind of like 50-50.
Okay. What are your?
It tends to be a continuation further down. I've seen the same thing in 2022 when we broke below 40K. The market structure clearly turned bearish on the weekly time frame, right? So it took some time on the daily. It took some time there to really like make people question everything, and that's what will always happen on the market. They'll always make you question it. But essentially, it was there, and I think it's still there right now. And again, we are talking daily time frame. I remain to be very much bullish, macro wise, but locally, I'm just not seeing the signs. I'm seeing like lots of escape pumps on lots of VC coins doing bearish retests.
Yep.
I mean, that's just the way it is, and I always said it, right? Like, it doesn't make sense to me to be to just be hopeful. I just play the levels, right, from the daily, weekly perspective and monthly perspective. I do not care that much about lower time frames. So lower time frames, nothing has changed at all. From the daily perspective, we still need to reclaim 64K. And I'm just struggling to see why it would happen from here. Again, I cannot rule it out, right? Like, again, I give it 10% probability of happening. But until it happens, you just have to stay within your levels. And I learned, like, the hard part in markets is that you usually see something in the charts, right? But then and sometimes you like either refuse to see it, right? Like, you start to get those calls from your friends suggesting you that like, top might be in, or you're like seeing people panic sell or everything. You kind of like, there's lots of signs and so forth. But the thing is, you are seeing it, but you are refusing to see them. Like, you are refusing to acknowledge them, which happens a lot. And then sometimes, well, I kind of lost my needle there, but I was going to continue on.
So,
but
I have a question for you, Jack. It's a question for you. What are your thoughts on the equities? I guess risk on appetite, even with crypto where it's at. What are your thoughts on the correlation, or how that could correlate, or possibly potentially? I mean, granted, I'm kind of giving you a thought, but give the market an edge to want to bid Bitcoin, even though it doesn't seem like there's any reason to do so, based on the risk appetite currently in the stock market.
Sorry.
So with the stock market moving the way it is on risk, what are your thoughts on that possibly coming into crypto and creating this reversal that a lot of people don't think there's a reason for?
Yeah, so we have clearly decorrelated from the equities market, right? And I still think that like we are in this local like it's quite clear, and that's been from the topping range, right, that we had, is that BTC was moving with the rest of the markets, and I still think it catches up at some point, right? Like if we see DXY dropping, if we will see like silver, gold moving higher, oil moving higher, if we will see equities where they are, I do believe it will essentially show within crypto. But locally, it's different, and the trend may stay that way for some time. Like, just like you can keep on going higher on a very positive funding. You can keep on going higher on, oscillators being overbought. You can do the same for a while on stuff being oversold. You can do it on people being, fearful and so forth. And we kind of even saw that during FTX, right? Like, if FTX did not happen, the markets would be running higher already, for crypto, for BTC. But it did, and they deviated, and then later on they caught up. So that's kind of what I think is essentially happening here with crypto. That for whatever reason, you can say that was like Mongox, that was like Germany selling, whatever. For whatever reason, whatever narrative you wanna point it to, it happened, right? And locally, like I do not know what are we even talking about here. Like,
let me bring this into the mix then. So this is what I'm talking about, is that Bitcoin lost its range, but ETH hasn't, and total has a much more clearly defined range low.
Listen,
and
Max,
this could still be a deviation.
Listen. I'm tired. I'm tired of like trying to help people. I'm tired of telling people something's gonna happen, it's gonna happen, and then listening the shit. So if people feel like it's good place here to belong, right? How many times I told you something's gonna happen, it happened, right? It's what it is, and just don't have energy for it.
Yeah, I mean, the range for me is it's clearly defined. Possible retest here, rollover. That's always a potential. But I mean, like, what are your downside numbers, Jackus, that you're ideally looking at? I guess that would be the more important question. If this is your perspective, where do you think price will go from here?
I mean, I already discussed every single level like so many times, right? The market is clearly like not doing anything for the past days. So I feel like just repeating myself over and over again while people get emotional on H1 time frame. So
I don't know who's getting emotional, and I haven't been here for 2 weeks. I was just looking to have a debate, kind of pick your brain. I haven't been on the show, but yeah, we don't have to go over it anymore. That's all right. But I'll just tell the audience, this is where I find a bit of confusion, right? Is that total looks as though this could be a deviation. ETH hasn't lost its range low. It looks a little heavy, but it's still within its range. But Bitcoin has definitely lost its range low, or at least the range low that I had put on there. Like I've said, some other people that I think are good traders had this. I personally had something more like this. So I don't know. It's up to everybody how they want to look at it. But I've been telling people that's not how I had it, but I'm willing to entertain it. But this is where I am confused, where I'm like, I recognize Bitcoin is the king, and Bitcoin is kind of in no man's land right now. But Bitcoin out of all of our majors is the only one that looks as heavy as it does, right? And then I could add another one on here too. I mean, here, let me even just throw Sol on there, right? Obviously, Solana. Solana is an important one as well. It's been one of the hottest names this entire cycle. It's been kind of a risk on barometer. Here's another example, right? And this is, again, where I struggle with the idea that it's over. Solana is still within its range, right? So it's like total, ETH, Sol, BTC. Like Bitcoin's the only one that looks as heavy as it does, right? And I recognize Bitcoin's the most important one. But I don't know how to reconcile that where, we have seen this before, where Bitcoin has been heavier than altcoins, and then you end up getting an alt season if it recovers. So obviously, I think alts reclaiming, their strength and everything performing well is going to be contingent upon Bitcoin really doing well. But it's just alts have been refusing to break down here. Alts have been refusing to follow Bitcoin. So either alts are lagging and they're about to nuke and lose their range low, or Bitcoin is way oversold here and will eventually, you know, come back from the dead, and then alts are going to send because they're done selling. Clearly, like these are the and I'm just speaking to the audience here. It's like this is where I look at it and I go like what more do you need to see? Like, why are altcoins not below their range low, but Bitcoin is? Like, how am I supposed to interpret that? You know, I don't know. I'm kind of willing.
So, Max, something I was discussing lately with Tommy is that it really makes no sense, and I'm struggling with this right now. Is that it just is so beneficial to just stay perma bullish or perma bearish, because if you are trying to help people and adapt, it's just like you usually get two type of followers or two types of people that are just perma long or perma short. And then if you are try to like reason with logic, they do not want to hear it, especially if they are long on everything. Or for example, if someone is short on everything, they do not want to hear the long scenario. And it's just not beneficial if you tell people that locally the market is just not bullish. It's just not beneficial for me to even say that. Unfortunately, that's the way the market is, or people on social media are. Because if you tell them, right, they will laugh at you. If it doesn't work out, they will laugh at you. But if it does work out, which it often does, then they will like not care and just say, hey, you know, we are slightly lower, but it's bullish anyway. So like I'm figuring out it's not beneficial to even like try to say that.
No, I mean, here's the thing though, Jack. It's like that's not us on the panel, I wouldn't think. And everybody obviously respects everybody's opinion and perspective on the market, right? It's not just opinion, but also perspective on the market. And I think like, even though we may feel like we come up here, repeat ourselves day after day after day after day, and it's like, man, I just don't feel like explaining it again because nobody's listening. You know, like I got that out. Like Max, you remember at 25, 30K, like I had the world against me. Like everybody's like, no, we're going down. No, we're going down. No, we're going down. That's how it felt down there. Like it was like day after day after day. I had to keep repeating myself, like, no, the 25K is the bottom. It's the bottom. It's the bottom. It's the bottom. And I had to keep saying that day after day after day after day. And eventually, you know, it showed that it was true. And I think that even though that these scenarios happen and it you know, it gets tiring sometimes, but it's still something that you got to stick to your conviction. And I think it's just different viewpoints too. You have to always think about that also. Some people just have that higher time frame conviction. They're not worried about the low time, I would say low, even mid time frame volatility. They're willing to eat that for the potential of the upside. And so they're going to continue to DCA the market. They're not necessarily trading the market. And we don't always have all traders as followers or viewers. Sometimes we have traders. Sometimes we have some people are just investors. They're just buying things and they're like, okay, what assets are super unappreciated? All right, let's get into those, right? And so I think like being that logical voice in the room is not, there's nothing wrong with that, even though it may get tiring and you feel like people aren't listening. Like it's still needed. You still need that sober moment from everybody, and we don't have to align. We absolutely do not have to align. There's been many times I don't align with the panel, and it's just that's what makes us all unique. So just throwing that out there. Like I wouldn't take it too stressful, man.
It's just money, man.
I'm not stressed at all. It's just that it's just tiring to do that. You know, I mean, I'm not finding any benefit for trying to tell people what I'm seeing if it's not fitting their bias. Like if it's fitting their bias, they will applaud you, right? But if it's not, 100%. Then they will, it's just not beneficial. But when the market, like if you don't tell them, they will tell you, why didn't you tell them, right? But if you tell them at the time, they will be angry that you are telling them something like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've been going for an hour and 20 minutes. I think we could probably call it here, guys. Guys, thanks so much
people legit wanna be dumped on by scamfluencers. That's just the truth. They don't wanna hear different opinions. They just wanna go along with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's true for a lot of people. But anyways, guys, thanks so much for being here. I'm thrilled to be back. Great to be back on YouTube hanging out with you guys. I hope you enjoyed the show. Unfortunately, it's the weekend now, so I'll see you guys Monday. But yeah, before you guys go, if you could please consider liking the stream, either on YouTube or on X, that would be great. And also, if you are new here, please consider subscribing to the channel as well. Guys, thanks so much for being here. Everybody have a great weekend and take care.